Hey, y'all, I'm Jake Harper, and this whole mess kicked off a few years back at my folks' house. Our family's always been tied to Harper's Diner, a cozy little spot in town famous for burgers, fries, and milkshakes that'd make your grandma smile. It's the kind of place where truckers stop, kids celebrate little league wins, and folks just feel at home. Me? I've been hooked on cooking since I was a kid. Not just messing around with a skillet, I mean living for it. By the time I was 14, I was flipping patties in that diner's kitchen after school, not 'cause I had to, but 'cause I loved it. The sizzle of grease, the smell of onions on the grill, it was my world. My brother, Lucas though? He couldn't care less about the place. He was too busy chasing get-rich-quick schemes or bragging about some online course he took. Meanwhile, I was in the back with Big Tom, our head cook. Tom wasn't just some fry guy, he'd worked in fancy joints out west before settling here. He'd slap a spatula in my hand and say, "Jake, you've got the touch, kid. Keep at it." By 17, I could grill a burger to perfection blindfolded. By 23, I knew every trick, how to season the fries, which suppliers had the best beef, all of it. Did my parents notice? Nope. To them, I was just messing around while Lucas was the golden boy with big ideas. Then came the night that flipped everything upside down. It was a regular Sunday, me, Mom, Dad, and Lucas crammed around the kitchen table at home, eating pot roast. Dad put his fork down real slow and said, "We've been talking about the diner's future." My stomach did a little flip. This was it. I thought, they're gonna see all this what I've put in. Mom chimed in, beaming, "We're giving it to Lucas to run." I blinked, waiting for the punchline. Nothing. Lucas just sat there with his smug grin, like he'd won the lottery. "Hold up," I said, trying to laugh it off. "Lucas? He's never even worked the grill. I've been there every day for years." Dad leaned back, crossing his arms. "Son, you're good with the food, no doubt. But Lucas knows business. He's got vision." Vision? The guy flunked out of community college and spent his days watching motivational videos online. I turned to Mom. "I know that diner inside out, every recipe, every customer. Lucas doesn't even know how to pour coffee without spilling it." Mom waved me off like I was whining about a scraped knee. "Jake, don't make a fuss. Lucas will handle the big stuff, marketing, money, all that." Then Lucas leaned in, smirking wider. "Don't worry, little bro. We've got a spot for you. You're starting as the janitor. Gotta earn your stripes, right?" He burst out laughing, and Mom and Dad nodded like it was the most normal thing in the world. I sat there, stunned. Janitor? I'd been running that kitchen unofficial for a decade, and they wanted me scrubbing floors? "You'll learn some grit," Dad said, all serious. "Hard work's good for you." Lucas was still cackling, saying, "You love the diner so much, now you can clean it." I clenched my fist under the table, forcing a tight smile. "Thanks," I said through gritted teeth. "I'll make it work." Oh, I'd make it work all right, just not how they thought. That night, lying in bed, I stared at the ceiling. They didn't just hand Lucas the diner, they handed him my dream and told me I was nothing but the cleanup crew. But I wasn't done. Not by a long shot. I'd show them what I could do, and they'd choke on that laughter someday. This was just the start. So, after that gut punch of a dinner where my folks handed Harper's Diner to my brother Lucas and stuck me with a mop, I figured I'd stick around a bit. Not 'cause I wanted to clean floors, but 'cause I needed to see how bad Lucas would mess it up. Spoiler, it didn't take long. I swallowed my pride, grabbed that janitor gig, and kept my eyes wide open. What I saw was a slow-motion train wreck, and I ain't exaggerating. First weekend, Lucas strutted around like he owned the world. He didn't know squat about running a diner, but he sure acted like it. He fired our best waitress, Sally, 'cause she told him the new ketchup packets he ordered tasted like plastic. "I don't need attitude," he snapped, showing her the door. Sally'd been there 10 years, knew every regular by name. Then he asked Jimmy, our line cook, 'cause he didn't like how Jimmy looked at him funny. By week 2, Lucas switched our beef supplier to some cheap outfit out of state. The burgers went from juicy perfection to dry, gray hockey pucks. Customers noticed fast. I was in the back, mopping grease off the floor, when Big Tom, our head cook, stormed over. His apron was half untied, and his face was redder than a sunburnt tomato. "Jake," he growled, "your brother's lost his damn mind. He just told me we're using frozen onion rings now." "Frozen? What's next, canned gravy?" I wiped my hands on my jeans and sighed. "You think he'll stop at onion rings, Tom? I give it a month before he's microwaving the burgers." Tom shook his head, pulling a crumpled pack of smokes from his pocket. "Come outside, kid. I need air." Out back by the dumpster, he lit up, blowing smoke into the night. "This diner used to be something," he said. "Your grandpa started it with nothing but a grill and a handshake. Your dad kept it alive. But Lucas? He's tearing it apart." I kicked a pebble across the gravel. "I see it, Tom. Regulars ain't coming like they used to. That guy Hank, the one who's been eating here every Friday since I was a kid? Haven't seen him in days." Tom nodded, flicking ash. "They're pissed about the food. And your parents, they're too stubborn to admit Lucas is screwing the pooch." He wasn't wrong. Mom and Dad kept acting like Lucas was some mastermind. "Give him time," Mom say when I called her out on it. "He's figuring it out." Figuring it out? The guy was bleeding money faster than a busted faucet. One night, I overheard a table of old-timers grumbling. "These fries taste like cardboard," one said, pushing his plate away. I ain't paying $10 for this. They left half their food and didn't come back. Online, folks started posting pictures of sad, overcooked burgers with captions like, "What happened to Harper's?" Meanwhile, I'm scrubbing tables, watching this disaster unfold. Lucas didn't care about the food. He was too busy dreaming up dumb ideas. He put up a big sign out front, Harper's Diner, now with a modern twist. The twist? He jacked up prices and shrank the portions. A burger and fries went from $8 to 12, and you got half the fries you used to. People hated it. Big Tom was ready to quit every other day, but he stuck around, 'cause he felt bad for me. "You should be running this place, Jake," he'd mutter. "Not this clown." I kept my mouth shut and my head down, but inside, I was boiling. Every time Lucas barked at me to mop faster or stop daydreaming, I added it to the list. This wasn't just about the diner anymore, it was personal. They thought I'd stay their little janitor forever, but I was already cooking up something else. I'd spent years learning from Tom, memorizing recipes, making friends with the staff Lucas was running off. I wasn't going to waste that. One night, after Lucas yelled at me for stacking chairs too loud, I made up my mind. I was done playing their game. It was time to start my own. That's when I started planning. I didn't tell a soul, not Tom, not my buddies, nobody. I'd get out of this dump and build something better. Lucas could keep his modern twist and shove it. The diner was sinking, and I wasn't going down with it. Next move was mine, and it was going to hit him where it hurt. Hey, it's Jake Harper again, and by now, I'd had it up to here with Harper's Diner under Lucas's reign of dumb. I'd been mopping floors and biting my tongue while he ran the place into the dirt, but there's only so much a guy can take. This chapter's about the night I said, enough, and walked out for good. It wasn't pretty, but it was the start of something big. Things at the diner kept getting worse. One Friday, a crew of construction guys, regulars who'd been coming forever, rolled in for their usual double cheeseburgers and a mountain of fries. Problem was, Lucas had switched to some bargain bin beef again, and Big Tom hadn't been told till the last second. I was in the back, scrubbing pots, when I heard shouting from the dining room. I dried my hands and peeked out. One of the guys, a big dude named Carl, was holding up his burger like it was roadkill. "What the hell is this?" he yelled. "This ain't Harper's. This is garbage." Lucas was out there, trying to smooth it over with that fake grin of his. "Sir, we're just tweaking the menu a bit, keeping costs down." Carl wasn't having it. "I've been eating here 20 years, kid. Your grandpa's burgers were gold. This." He dropped the plate on the table with a clatter. "This ain't worth $5, let alone 12. The whole crew got up, tossed some cash down, and stormed out. I watched from the kitchen door as half the room stared. Lucas turned red, muttering something about ungrateful customers, but the damage was done. Those guys were gone for good. That night, after closing, Lucas called a big staff meeting, or more like a tantrum session. We all stood around the kitchen, me, Tom, the two waitresses he hadn't fired yet, while he paced like some wannabe tough guy. "I don't know what's wrong with you people," he snapped. "Food's off, service stinks, and I'm getting complaints left and right." Big Tom snorted, crossing his arms. "Maybe 'cause you keep buying crap meat and firing anyone who knows what they're doing." Lucas shot him a death glare. "You got a problem, Tom? Door's right there." Then he turned on me. "And you, Jake," he said, pointing like I just spit in his coffee. "You think you're some big shot cook 'cause you hung around Tom a few years? You're a janitor, bro. That's it. Stop acting like you're special." The room went dead quiet. I felt this hot twist in my gut, but it wasn't anger, it was clarity. I'd been waiting for a sign, and this was it. I set my mop against the wall, slow and deliberate, and stepped up to him. "You really believe that, huh?" I said, keeping my voice low. He smirked, crossing his arms. "Yeah, I do. You're nothing here." I nodded, peeling off my grimy apron and tossing it at his feet. "All right then. I'm out." Big Tom called after me. "Jake, hold up." But I didn't look back. I walked past the grill, out the back door, and into the cool night air. My boots crunched on the gravel, and I didn't stop till I hit my truck. I wasn't mad. I was free. See, I'd been planning this for months, quiet-like. All those nights scrubbing dishes, I'd been dreaming up my own place. I'd saved every penny I could, scribbled recipes on napkins, and talked to the staff Lucas was too dumb to keep. Sally, Jimmy, even Tom, they'd all hinted they'd jump ship if I gave him a reason. I knew the suppliers, the tricks, the customers Lucas was losing. That night, driving home, I didn't feel lost. I felt ready. Harper's Diner could rot. I was going to build something better, something mine. Lucas thought he'd put me in my place, but all he did was light the fuse. Next stop, my own game plan. "Hey, it's Jake again." After I ditched Harper's Diner that night, I didn't waste time crying over it. I'd been kicked down by my own family, handed a mop while Lucas got the keys, but I wasn't about to stay there. I had a fire in me, and it was time to put it to work. This chapter is about how I started building my own place, step by sweaty step, and let me tell you, it felt good. First thing I did was sit down with a notebook and a beer. I'd been squirreling away cash for years. Every tip I'd snagged helping out in the kitchen, every extra buck from odd jobs. It wasn't a fortune, but it was enough to get me thinking. I learned plenty at Harper's, how to run a grill, sure, but also what made folks come back. Good food, fair prices, a place that felt like home. Lucas was torching all that, and I figured those customers he was losing, They'd follow quality if I gave it to him. Next morning, I called up Big Tom. He picked up on the second ring, voice gruff as always. Jake, you all right after last night? He asked. Better than all right, I said. I'm done with Lucas's crap. I'm starting my own joint. You in? There was a long pause, then a low chuckle. Hell yeah, kid. I'm sick of frying frozen garbage. What's the plan? That's Tom, loyal as they come. I told him I wanted a simple spot. Burgers, fries, shakes, done right. No fancy nonsense, just food that'd make your mouth water. He was on board before I finished talking. Then I tracked down Sally and Jimmy, the ones Lucas had canned. Sally was working at some gas station diner, miserable as sin. Jake, she said when I showed up, if you're serious about this, I'm there. I miss real customers, not just truckers asking for free coffee. Jimmy was flipping patties at a fast food joint, hating every second. You give me a grill and decent meat, he told me, and I'll cook circles around Lucas. I had my crew, folks I trusted, folks who knew the game. Finding a spot wasn't easy. I drove around town for days, eyeballing every for lease sign. Finally, I found it. An old auto shop on the edge of town, beat up but big enough. The landlord, a grizzled guy named Hank, scratched his beard when I pitched him. A diner? Huh? You got cash? I showed him my savings, plus a loan I'd scraped together from the bank. He shrugged. All right, kid. Don't burn it down. Deal was done. Jake's joint was born, at least in my head. We got to work. Me, Tom, Sally, Jimmy, we hauled out rusty car parts, scrubbed oil stains off the concrete, painted walls till our arms ached. I sank every dime into a second-hand grill, a fryer, and a cooler that barely hummed. Nights, I'd sit there alone, tweaking recipes, my perfect burger blend, a fry seasoning that'd knock your socks off. Tom come by, taste test, and nod. This is it, Jake. This is what Harper's used to be. Word started spreading. Old regulars I'd known forever, guys like Carl from the construction crew, heard I was up to something. One day, Carl swung by while I was hammering booths together. Heard you're cooking again, he said, leaning on a sawhorse. Lucas screwed us over. You better make it good. I grinned, wiping sweat off my forehead. Better than good, man. You'll see. He clapped my shoulder and walked off, but I knew he'd be back. By the time we were ready, I was broke, tired, and happier than I'd been in years. Jake's joint wasn't just a building, it was mine, built from scratch with my hands and my crew. Opening night was coming, and I could feel it. This was going to change everything. Lucas and my folks? They had no clue what was about to hit him. Hey, it's Jake again. After months of busting my tail, Jake's joint was ready. The grill was hot, the fryers were bubbling, and my crew, Big Tom, Sally, Jimmy, was primed to roll. Opening night was my shot to show this town what I could do, and maybe stick it to Lucas and my folks a little in the process. What I didn't expect was for them to crash the party. Here's how it went down. We opened at 5 sharp. I'd spread the word quiet like, no big ads, just whispers to old Harper's regulars and some flyers around town. By 5:30, the place was humming. Folks lined up at the counter, boots scuffing my freshly painted floor. Carl and his construction buddies were first through the door, hollering, Jake, you better not mess this up. I fired up the grill, slapped my burger mix down, ground chuck with a touch of brisket, and the smell hit the air. People started grinning before they even took a bite. Sally was flying, taking orders like she'd never left the game. Jimmy manned the fryer, cranking out golden fries dusted with my special seasoning. Big Tom worked the stove, flipping patties and barking at me to keep up. Move your ass, kid, this ain't a drill, he yelled, but he was smiling. The place was alive, laughter, clinking plates, folks saying stuff like, this is what a burger's supposed to taste like. I was in the zone, sweat dripping, heart pounding, loving every second. Then, around 7, the doors swung open, and in walked Lucas. I spotted him from the grill, arms crossed, that smug look plastered on his face. Behind him, Mom and Dad, looking like they'd rather be anywhere else. My stomach tightened, but I kept flipping burgers. Sally nudged me. Trouble's here, Jake. I wiped my hands on my apron and nodded. Let him come. Lucas strutted up to the counter, eyeing the packed tables. Well, he said, loud enough for half the room to hear. Little bro thinks he's a big shot now. I stepped out from the grill, meeting his stare. Welcome to Jake's joint, Lucas. Hungry? He snorted. What's this? Some cheap knockoff of Harper's? Before I could answer, Carl piped up from his table, mouth full of fries. Cheap? This beats your sorry diner any day, kid. Where you been? Lucas's face twitched, but he ignored Carl. Mom stepped forward, wringing her hands. Jake, this is nice, but why compete with us? I raised an eyebrow. Compete? Mom, I'm just cooking. People decide where they eat. Dad cleared his throat, voice low. Son, this is reckless. You're splitting the family. I laughed, couldn't help it. Splitting? You gave Lucas the diner and made me the janitor. I built this myself. Right then, a couple at the next table waved me over. Jake, these shakes are killer. Better than Harper's ever was. Lucas's jaw tightened. I turned back to him. See? Not my fault folks like it here. He leaned in, voice dropping. You stole my customers. I shook my head. No, you chased him off. I just gave him a home. Mom tugged Dad's arm. Let's go, Frank. But Lucas wasn't done. This won't last, he spat. They'll come crawling back to Harper's. As he stormed out, Carl yelled, Don't hold your breath, buddy. The room busted up laughing. I went back to the grill, adrenaline pumping. By closing, we'd sold out. Every burger, every fry. Tom clapped my shoulder. You did it, kid. I grinned. We did it. Lucas could talk smack all he wanted, but the truth was on those empty plates. My folks saw it too, they just didn't want to admit it yet. This wasn't just a win, it was a warning shot. Jake's joint was here to stay. Hey, it's Jake again. After opening night at Jake's joint, word spread like wildfire. Folks couldn't stop talking about the burgers, the fries, the shakes, hell, even the way Sally remembered their names. We were packed every night, and I was loving it. But over at Harper's Diner, things were falling apart fast. This chapter's about how Lucas and my folks started feeling the heat, and how they tried to drag me back into their mess. Next day after we opened, my phone wouldn't quit buzzing. Mom called first, voice all shaky. Jake, this isn't right. You're taking business from Harper's. I leaned against my truck, watching the sunrise. Mom, I'm not taking anything. People choose where they eat. Maybe ask Lucas why they're choosing me. She huffed. He's trying, honey. It's not easy. I bit my tongue. Trying? Guy was tanking a legacy. Then Dad called, gruff as hell. Jake, we gotta talk. This is serious. I smirked. Serious like making me a janitor? I'm busy, Dad. Running a diner. He hung up, mad as a hornet. Lucas didn't call. He showed up. I was unloading a meat delivery when he rolled into the lot, tires screeching. He jumped out, face red, pointing at me like I'd robbed him. You think you're hot stuff, huh? Stealing my regulars. I set a box down, wiping my hands. Your regulars? You mean the ones you fed crap meat, till they quit coming? He stepped closer. I'll see you, Jake. You're using Harper's recipes. I laughed. These are mine. Bro perfected M while you were busy firing Sally. Good luck proving different. He stormed off, but the damage was already done at Harper's. Big Tom swung by that night after his shift there, looking beat. Jake, he said, sipping a coffee I poured him. It's a ghost town over there. Lucas ran some half-off burger deal to pull folks in. Didn't work. They took one bite and left. I shook my head. What's he doing now? Tom sighed. Raising prices again. Says it'll cover losses. Customers hate it. Yelp's a bloodbath, folks saying the food's trash and the place feels dead. I checked it myself later. Harper's page was brutal. Used to be my favorite spot. Now it's overpriced junk. Took my family there. Empty tables, cold fries. Jake's joint is the new king. I didn't gloat, not out loud, but damn, it felt good. My place? Booked solid. We had a wait list by week 2. Carl's crew started calling it the real Harper's, which stung my folks, I'm sure. Then came the desperate move. Dad showed up at Jake's joint one afternoon, hat in hand. I was prepping for the dinner rush when he walked in, looking older than I'd ever seen him. Jake, he started, voice low, Harper's is hurting bad. Lucas can't keep up. We need you back. I stopped chopping onions, staring at him. Back? To do what, mop floors again? He winced. No, son. To fix it. You know the kitchen, the people. We're drowning. I set my knife down, leaning on the counter. Let me get this straight. You gave Lucas the diner, laughed when he made me janitor, and now that he screwed it up, you want me to bail you out. He looked away, jaw tight. It's still your family's place, Jake. I shook my head. Was. You picked Lucas over me. I built this. I waved at the buzzing dining room, without you. Harper's ain't my problem. He stood there, silent, then nodded slow. Think about it, he muttered, walking out. I didn't need to think. They'd made their bed, Lucas could lie in it. That night, we served 100 burgers, and every bite was proof I didn't need Harper's anymore. They were sinking, and I was soaring. But I knew they weren't done begging yet. That's coming up next. Hey, it's Jake again. By now, Jake's joint was the talk of the town. We were packed every night, folks waiting outside, laughing, eating burgers that'd make you slap the table. Me, Big Tom, Sally, Jimmy, we were a machine, cranking out food that brought people back day after day. Harper's Diner? It was a shadow, bleeding cash and customers, all cause Lucas couldn't hack it. This chapter's about how my folks made one final plea, and how I turned it into my biggest win yet. It was a Tuesday evening, maybe a month after Dad's first visit. I was flipping patties when Sally poked her head in the kitchen. Jake, your parents are here. Both of them. I sighed, wiping grease off my hands. All right, let's see what they want. I walked out, and there they were, Mom and Dad, standing by the door, looking like they'd aged a decade. The place was hopping, but they stuck out quiet, stiff, out of place. I strolled over, casual as could be. Hey, folks. Table for 2? Burgers on special tonight. Mom's eyes darted around, taking in the crowd. Dad cleared his throat. Jake, we need to talk. Now. I shrugged. I'm listening. Talk. They glanced at each other. Then Mom stepped up, voice shaky. Harper's is done, Jake. Lucas can't save it. We can't either. We're losing everything. I leaned against the counter, crossing my arms. Yeah, I heard. Half-off deals didn't work, huh? Dad's face tightened. Don't get smart, son. This is serious. We're begging you come back. Run the kitchen, bring it back to life. You're the only one who can. I almost laughed, but I held it in. So, let me get this right. You gave Lucas the reins, told me I was just a janitor, let him trash the place, and now you want me to swoop in and fix it? Mom's lip trembled. We made a mistake, Jake. We see that now. Dad nodded. You've always been good with the food. We should have trusted you. I let that hang there, soaking in the silence. Customers around us were eating, laughing, my world, built from nothing. I looked at him, then back at my folks. You're right. You should have. But you didn't. I poured my soul into Harper's for years, and you handed it to Lucas like I was nobody. I'm not your cleanup crew. Dad's voice dropped. What do you want, Jake? Name it. I didn't even blink. I'll take Harper's off your hands. Buy it cheap, real cheap. You're desperate, and I'm not. That's the deal. Mom gasped. Sell it? But it's our family's. I cut her off. Was your family's. You let Lucas kill it. I'll bring it back, but it's mine now. No strings, no family legacy crap. Take it or leave it. They stood there, stunned. Dad rubbed his face, looking at Mom. She nodded, barely. Okay, he said, voice hoarse. It's yours. I grinned. Good choice. I'll have the papers drawn up. They shuffled out, heads low, and I went back to the grill. 2 weeks later, the deal was done. Harper's Diner was mine for pennies. But I wasn't saving it. Nah, I had bigger plans. I gutted the place, new floors, new paint, new everything. 6 months later, it reopened as Harper's Revival by Jake. No trace of the old name, just my mark. Opening night was insane, lines out the door, folks raving about the food. I spotted Lucas outside once, staring at the sign, hands in his pockets. I walked out, leaning on the wall. Lost, bro? He glared at me. Why take it? You've got Jake's joint. I smiled. To prove I was always the one. You just got in the way. He didn't say a word, just turned and left. A year later, Jake's joint and Harper's Revival are the hottest spots around. My folks moved out of state, quiet and gone. Lucas? He's selling car parts online, flopping again. Me? I've got 2 diners, a crew that's family, and respect I earned the hard way. From janitor to king of the grill, that's my story. And damn, it feels good.